Hi, this is Jeff Blauette, technical agronomist with Cooperative Farmers Elevator. On this week's Field Friday segment, out in the corn again, we've talked a couple of times about some things that the weather's done to us, recently with some of the, the herbicide kill and some of the things that's going to maybe affect with our Liberty applications and so forth. But wanted to talk about another facet of what the weather's, been doing to us lately. We just maybe picked up in a few areas, a small amount of rain, but we just haven't had a good soaker for quite a while. Another thing that's doing to us is it's affecting our mineralization in our soils, basically breaking down the organic matter and supplying some nutrients that this crop needs. You can see a lot of this corn has a nice green color to it yet. We're at that stage where the uptake of nitrogen and sulfur and those things are just starting to really ramp up. So we haven't needed a lot of nitrogen for corn this size yet. That's about to change though. With that, our dry weather and our soils drying out, it has an impact on how that microbial activity happens and how much nitrogen is being made available with our mineralization. I've got a chart that Iowa State has shown with a model that they've created trying to measure that or predict that mineralization potential. You can kind of see with the line that shows this 2026 season up till very recently. We were doing well earlier. We've really started to drop off though. We were well from mid-May until maybe early to mid-June. We were doing pretty well. We started to drop off though, and now we're below the black line. The black line is kind of the 40-year average, and until we get a good soaking rain, that's probably not going to go up anytime soon. So what's that mean? We might start running into some short-term or hopefully only short-term nutrient deficiency in what that plant really needs. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to start showing N deficiency and corn flaring up just yet. But if we don't get a weather pattern change, our organic matter is not supplying as much as it could. If you compare and contrast that to last year, you can kind of see, we kind of remember last year we were dry a little earlier, and we got a lot of rain starting in July last year, and we had a really good corn crop, and I think you can kind of see why. Starting from about now when we're starting to drop off, last year we were really picking up the pace, and kind of all the way through the 1st of September last year, we were getting a lot of help from soil mineralization. If you look at these charts, the light gray lines are, it's like the last 40 years that they ran this model on, and you can kind of see the variation from highs to lows, and you can kind of see last year for a period of time we were about at a record level of mineralization. And this year we were a little bit earlier in the season, but now we're starting to tail off. And I'm a little fearful as to what's going to happen if we don't start getting a decent amount of rain here as far as the soil supplying additional nitrogen. The organic matter breakdown, the microbial activity, the mineralization we'll call it, isn't just nitrogen though. We could be looking at sulfur, zinc, and some other things that come out of our organic matter phase being supplied at a lower level. Last year we did some trials mid-season, starting about now and doing some foliar feed treatments just to try some and see how it worked out. We struggled to get results, but I think after looking at this model and finding this after the fact, we had really high mineralization levels, and I think our soils were able to supply what it needed last year. I'm wondering about this year. We're going to do some trials again here now soon, doing some foliar feed, and I wonder if we may see different results because of that. There is some Y dropping that happens in the area, also trying to supply some nutrients here a little later in the season. That works really well too if you get rain to take it down into the plant. That's the challenge as we get into these dry stretches, but just kind of wanted to touch on some of those differences. I'll actually put the web address for this model. There's a website you can go to and look this over if you want. It's kind of interesting to look at as the season goes on and how it compares to others and what that soil is able to supply. With a lot of the manure and that we have going on, there's a lot of stuff that's in the soil. It doesn't necessarily mean it's available to the plant, and we may struggle if we stay dry just because nutrients are hard to extract or impossible to extract out of really dry topsoil. So just wanted to touch on that. It's something that I've looked at and we've kind of, you know, started to pay attention to as our weather pattern has changed and our soil moisture has changed. So with that, that's this week's Field Friday segment, and we'll see you next week.